So thank y'all all for being on. I hope y'all are all doing well. I won't keep y'all. I know it's late. I'm feeling the late. Like I'm usually winding down and getting in bed. But I think that this is going to be a good exercise, and I hope that y'all do too. This is going to be super laid back. I actually I have no notes. Like I have my little printout here to do with all of us together, and I also brought my goals in this just in case we run out of things to talk about, which never happens. So so I have no notes. I was just thinking about just some things that we can work on about telling our story. And that's something that I always like to go back to and like remind myself and go back to the basics on, because I feel like the longer that I coach and the more other things like flashy, interesting, like you can do all the things kind of things that come up, the more that happens, the easier it is to kind of lose sight of what are you actually, why are you actually doing this? Like, not your why, like as in like your big why and why are you coaching and all that kind of stuff, but like what keeps you showing up? Like why did you want to do this in the first place? And why did it sound like something that you were interested in the first place? And how do we tell other people about that? Like, how do we communicate well? I don't know about y'all, but I want to be a good communicator, like in life, but I want to be a good communicator to like to y'all, to my team. I want to be a good communicator to the people that I'm inviting and talking to and leading and all that kind of stuff. So before we get started on that, and do our little, did everybody get a chance to print this out?
I can't print anything. I just wrote it out on paper.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and that's okay too. Like this is fun. I got
my printer to work again.
It's running out of colored ink.
I just don't have any ink for it. That's really what it is. So
cool. Okay. So yeah. So if in this, there's nothing like, I mean, besides the fact that Mallory did this and was like, we were talking and she was like, what about this? And I was like, sweet. And so she totally just pulled this out of the air because she's amazing like that. But like there's nothing magic about like this. It's like just as long as you have like the gist of it, you're good. But before we do that, I just want to take a really quick little bit of time to kind of, because it was such a good call on Monday night. I know Shannon was on there. Who else? Did anybody else get to? Mallory was on there. I was like sort of on there. Like we were decorating our Christmas tree and it was super distracting, but I was like, I just had this feeling that it was going to be like something good. And so like I stuck my ear in and I was going, and it was really funny because Micah kept being like, mommy, blah, 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 and like was talking, and she didn't know that I wasn't like actually listening to her. I was like, you know, that's just what we do sometimes. So don't tell her that.
I did watch it today.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you got like the recording.
And I definitely want to watch it again because I kind of was like, oh my gosh, she's me.
Isn't that funny? So yeah. So if you Lisa and Caitlin, if you get a chance to go back and watch it, like I need to go back and rewatch it again just because. And it was funny because she kept saying this, that she's like, I'm not saying anything you don't know. And it's funny because as soon as somebody says that, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, you know, right? Like, but she kept saying that, like, I'm not saying anything that you haven't heard before. I'm not saying anything you don't know. I'm probably not going to say something that's going to like revolutionize your coaching business. But like the main thing that she kept coming back to was, if you say, yeah, I know that, are you doing it? And she just kept coming. Yes, I know. I'm trying not to say too much. I'm trying not to say too much because I did ask you to share. I was like, because I knew Shannon was on, and I was like, okay, I want a good, like, I just love takeaways. I love that. So I want you to share your takeaways and share kind of what you heard, what was impactful to you, and what you just took away from that, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
So hand it off.
Sounds good. So the one thing she started the call off with was what you focus on expands. So it's okay to have weaknesses, and we work on our weaknesses, but we shouldn't focus on that. We should focus on what we're good at. And then use the team that we have. And I apologize, I haven't been on a lot of calls, so I promise I'm going to get better at that.
Girl, no. Like, okay, but she talked about that too, right? She talked about that too. So yes, go for it. Yes. Yes.
So you use your team, ask questions, and ask for help. So if you're not so strong in one area, there's somebody on the team that can help you, and that's okay. Don't feel bad for asking for help. What else? Let's see. Focusing on the struggle will burn you out, and that is so true. I get caught in these cycles sometimes where I just focus on, oh my gosh, this is so hard. Like, how am I going to break through this one area and move forward? And it will burn you out. And there's times where I just get quiet and I'm like, I don't know, but then I try to turn it around and think of the positive and focus on that some more. Personal development. She says, you hear this all the time. We talk about it constantly, but do it every day because it is so, so important. And I notice that I start to struggle more when I don't do it. So let's see. Focus on where you're going and be grateful for what you have. How much further do you want me to go? Because I don't know if anybody else had anything to say.
No, that's great. Like, just keep sharing like what I just want to hear what your main takeaways were and what it was that was like impactful to you.
Okay. Be an action taker. And again, that brings back to what she kept saying. Are you actually doing it? So are you actually taking action on things? Are you inviting? Are you doing your personal development? Are you focusing on the positive instead of the struggle? Be consistent. She said that's her superpower. She's consistent. And it's so true. I mean, we all know it, right? Do we all do it every day? Consistency. Let's see. Set non-negotiables. You have to know what you want out of this business and be very clear about it. And then make sure to set boundaries. You can't be connected to your phone or your laptop all of the time. Again, you'll burn out if you don't set boundaries. Set a schedule for you to communicate that with your family. It's really, really important. So that's all
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing.
She said failing equals growth too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She had so many, it was like, she just kept like throwing out these little like just nuggets. And it was funny because I caught myself going, this is so like, there's so much to this talk. Like, it wasn't like she was like, I'm just going to talk about consistency and like how to be consistent. It was like, there was so much, but it didn't feel like it was like crazy and disjointed. Like, it made sense. And I don't know. So if you haven't listened to it, go listen. But definitely along those lines with the personal development, something she said that that stood out to me is that like, you always have to be growing in your brain. Like, you will always have something new to learn. And oftentimes when you feel stuck and when you feel like you're stuck in that negative place, it's because you're not growing. Like, how can you grow and be stuck at the same time? And so like, you pour in and good things are going to come out. It's like the analogy with like your teacup, like somebody bumps you, you know, like the reason why something comes out is because there was something in there in the first place. Y'all have all seen that, right? I'm not like making that. Okay. Like, it's like you have a cup full of something, let's just say a teacup, and you're holding this cup and it's full, like to the brim, and someone comes along and bumps you and you spill it. Okay, well, the question is, why did it spill? And it's not because someone bumped you, it was because there was tea in it. Like, if there hadn't been anything in there, nothing would have come out whenever somebody bumped you. Like, so, and it's so funny. I'm guilty of this too. Like, I get into my little like routine, and I get into my little, like, either I know where to go for the answers, which I don't always know, or I think, you know, like I think I do, like, cause I've gotten in this rut. Well, it always worked before that I just but I'm still like all this anxiety and like stress and stuckness. But then I'm like, when I go and bust open one of my books, like one of the mini books that I have in my cabinet downstairs, I start reading that and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. And oh yeah, okay, well maybe now I don't have to be so worried about knowing what to post, because oh my gosh, that just said something about like something I could talk about in a post, or I could talk about in my stories. And so like, not only are you growing your mind, but it gives you something to talk about. Like, it gives you something to share. And so like, when you're talking about sharing your story, like, you got to get that from somewhere, right? And our growth is part of our story. So like, let's share what we're learning. I like the whole thing about like, when you do kind of feel overwhelmed, like there's so many things you could be doing, and you feel like you're not really good at that or this, but you feel like you're good at this, but then like you're still being pulled into all of these directions about like, well, maybe I need to go to this direction, and hi, Desi. But like, I need to go like in this direction and do this, even though I'm not like, that's not my wheelhouse, that's not my strong suit, but I still feel like I should do it because it's there. And like, I think Lisa and I talked about that recently. It was just like, just because it's there doesn't mean that it's like, I mean, that was in the thread. Hello. Like, y'all were all part of that. Like just because it's there doesn't mean that you have to be there. Like, just because there's an opportunity doesn't mean it's your opportunity. And so I think, as like, when you're bringing on new coaches, if you yourself feel kind of like iffy in an area of coaching, that's a good thing to remember, is that like, and I have to remind myself that all the time, like, just because that's there doesn't mean that needs to be what I'm doing. Like, I don't have to be all things to all people, because number one, that's overwhelming. And number two, I'm not going to be good at it. And number three, like, I'm not going to be good for anybody. So I like that she talked about that, you know, like, if you feel like you need to improve in an area, like, find an area and work on it, and just work on that. Like, you don't have to do all the things. You don't have to like all of a sudden become an expert in all the things. Like, there's no way of doing that. But like, I will never ask you, any of you, to do all the things. And I will never ask you, any of you, to show up to all the things. But if you know that you want to grow in a certain area, it just goes along with like making sure that you are showing up for yourself and for your team and all that kind of stuff. Like, pick a thing and do it really well. And if you don't do it really well, figure out, like, ask questions and you know, like, until you get better, because you're drawn to a certain area for a reason. Does that make any sense? I feel like I'm the one that's now like picking all the little things out of the air. And then I like that you brought up the boundaries when she talked about setting boundaries. She said that it was like one of the main reasons she's seen that people quit is because they don't set boundaries. Like, they don't set like, this is what I'm going to do in this space, in this time, and that's good. And outside of it, I'm not going to go there. Like, I don't know, like going all gung ho and being all excited about it and burning yourself out because you don't ever say, you don't ever say no, you don't ever put it away, you don't ever, that kind of thing. So setting boundaries in your business, and also with certain people, like we could go on and on about that, but like just messaging people and like letting people drain you and that kind of stuff, like that's really important. And she brought up an interesting part about when you mentioned like being on your phone all the time. My husband Matt hates it when I'm on my phone when we're together. He hates it, absolutely hates it, and we go around and around and around, and like that's a point that like I need to grow in like grace towards that and like understanding towards that. But I loved what she said about like the reason why they're frustrated is probably because, and this was like ouch, probably because you don't really have anything to say for the time that you're spent on it. Does that make sense? Like you're spending a lot of time on your phone and it's not really like nothing's really coming of it. And so that's why he's upset. Like he's upset because you don't really have anything to say for all of the time that you're spent on your phone. And the reason why is probably because you're scrolling more than you think you are, or you're doing the like foo-foo stuff more than you think you are. Like I am the world's best at like, I get an idea in my head, and like, I'm not kidding you. If Mallory would have been like, let's do this talk, and I would, like, let's make this. And I'm like, you know what? I'll make a sheet. I can spend an hour and a half on something like this. And is that a good use of my time? No, I'm sorry. It's not. It's a good resource to have, but I don't need to do that. That's not what I need to be spending my time on. And so I'm scrolling, and Matt sees that. And at the end of the day, when Thursday rolls around and I'm like, hey babe, look at this. And he's like, if I was using my time wisely and actually inviting and getting people and and selling lots of challenge packs, then it's going to be all about me being on my phone, right? But if I don't have anything to say for like if the outcome doesn't match the time that I put into it, that's probably why. So I don't know, I was like, maybe if I really want to change his mind is towards like how much time I spend on my phone and on my computer, maybe I just need to like bring in more money. And then he won't have anything to say, but he's like, yeah, babe, go ahead, you work. I don't know, but that's boundaries.
You know who Josh Coates is?
Yes.
Yeah. He said,
oh yes.
Oh, we do.
I love him. And he said something one time, and it really, really hit hard. He said, if you're not, oh, there you go.
There you go.
If you're not really doing something while you're taking time away from your family, then you're robbing your family of that time that they should be spending with you. And that just like really hit me hard. I was like, wow, it's true, because you get caught in the scroll and you aren't productive.
Feel good at hitting your gut.
Yeah. He's like, ouch. So it's funny because like that you hear that, I heard that, and I was like, well, dang, like ow. And well, and it's like, so you almost like you want to get defensive. I felt that immediately, and I was like, but it's right. Like if I want my time to be spent well, and I want to tell my story well, and I want to, just to minister to people well, I have to be really careful about how I use my time and the boundaries that I set and all of that. So I don't know. Those were just those were just some takeaways for me too. And I appreciate some other takeaways. So, because I don't like to just talk all the time, as you can see. Does anybody have anything else to say, add? Kathy, did you have anything that you took away, or are you waiting to kind of go back and?
No, I had a lot of the same takeaways. I mean, I was jotting down notes as fast as I could, but it was just I just need to go back and watch it, because I was also trying to finish dinner while I was watching it. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
The call
so that
on
was
the Dream Big page. I don't know the gal's name who did the Monday call. Just so it's obvious to find it.
Why am I saying Michelle? Michelle?
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
I don't remember
anyway,
either.
I'll find it.
Yeah. Mallory, will you find and tag? Or something like that.
Thank you.
So yeah, it was just a really good, like, it was just good. And she had lots of things that I feel like I've tried to say, or maybe some things that I've tried to like get across that I was just like, I feel like I'm not quite saying it right. And so there were some things that she said that I was like, oh, good. I still don't feel like I did a good job of like, whatever. So you just need to go and listen to it, and then you don't have to listen to me. But in the meantime, let's talk about writing our story. And the point of this exercise is not just to like get you in your feels and like whatever, which is, I mean, it's great to do that every once in a while and remind you of why you're doing what you are doing. And this even goes past your why. But I want you to be able to have a thing to go back to and help you post and help you answer objections and help you post. Really, like I was like, I want you to have a resource to say, because like I learned early on, it probably in my very first, like whenever I first was first coming on and learning like how to post and what the coaching thing was. And I remember when Kristen was like, okay, so now you have to tell people that you're a coach. And I'm like, whoa, how do I do that? And she's like, well, you tell them where you were before. Hi, Brenda, I'm so glad you're here. You tell them where you were before, you tell them what you're doing now, and you tell them where you want to go. And I was like, really? It's that simple? And I was like, yeah. And that changes, right? Like maybe it doesn't change like where you were, like your past doesn't necessarily change, but like you need to know where you came from, right? You need to have that in front of your face so that you don't go back to it if it's something you don't want to go back to. And you need to know like what you have now so you can be grateful for it. Like I heard that said earlier too. And then you need to know like at least kind of where you think you're going. Like not necessarily, I'm not even really talking about goals. I'm just talking about like, why are you here and why are you doing what you're doing? And does that make sense? And like to be able to tell somebody about that. And it doesn't have to be like I want bullets. I'll go into like what we're going to do with this and what that's going to look like, but like bullet points so that you can like work up a post that says, I used to da 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 da. This is what I found. If you want to do it, come along with me. And you're going to have a couple of bullets so that you don't have the same post every time. Does that make sense? Like, this is what I had. And then like, how was coaching or our team, how did those things answer that? And how did it change things for you? And then like, where do you want to go? And that can change like that. Where do you want to go? And where do you see yourself, next week or next month, like just kind of why are you doing this? And then you can kind of pull from that. So does that make sense? Is that pretty clear? Okay. It's funny because sometimes I'm like, this would be a great idea to talk to them about it. And I'm just like, I don't know. So yeah. Okay. So I want you to think back to, let's do coaching first because it's at the top of the page. So yay. Let's go back to before coaching. And I want you to write down, I'm going to set a timer. I don't know how much time we have. That's funny. I don't know how long we've been on this. Like we're about halfway done. Okay, let's take 5 minutes. Cool. Okay, so I'm gonna set a timer and I want you to take 5 minutes and just jot, like literally kind of like if you, on MM100, whenever she's like telling you to just like write words or write phrases or whatever in your book, I want you to just write where you were before coaching. Like when you think of yourself before you were a coach, what do you think of? can play some instrumental Christmas music. So it's not like super, can y'all hear that at all?
Are we supposed to only be working on the first box at this moment?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
I mean, if you want to skip ahead, you can, but we're kind of guiding. I'm kind of guiding that way. So yes, before coaching. Actually, so yes, if you get done with your before coaching, I want you to go on to the before the team, like before community, the community of our team, the community of our group, that kind of stuff. So like team / group, challenge group kind of thing. Does that make sense? So yeah, so this is before both of those things. Seriously, already? It's telling me I don't have much time. Anyway, I think we can do this. Are y'all still working on the befores? Are we pretty much done? Can we move on? Okay. So let's move on just for the sake of time. Now let's think about like on the other side of that, like since you have been a coach, since you have had our team, since you have had our group, like what do you have now that you didn't? What are you now that you weren't? That kind of thing. About 1 more minute, and then we'll kind of wrap up. Alrighty. Okay.
Julia. I see
What?
you.
Oh, I know. He's so funny. Look at him.
He's not like this
see
with the blanket.
Can't see me if I'm under my blanket. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so I hope everybody got to put down at least like 3-ish bullet points. I thought that I was only going to do like 3, and I ended up like filling up the boxes. So that's just what happens sometimes. So I hope y'all all got some points. And like, I think at least when I think about posting sometimes, and when I think about sharing my story, yes, you want to tell like a continuous, like you want it to make sense, that you want it to be like engaging, whatever, but it doesn't have to be like a novel every time you post, right? And I think that was something, like if I'm going to tell my story, it's going to be this long, like drawn out thing. No, like I was like, I want to help y'all simplify, so it's not quite so like, what do I talk about and how do I share and all that kind of stuff. So like take one of your bullet points of before coaching. Like before I was coaching, like I was not like, I didn't listen very well. Like I wasn't a good listener. And so now that I've been a coach, like I feel like I can relate to people better. And how can I turn that into, like, how can I tell, like a before and after kind of thing? Like that's a transformation right there. So it doesn't always have to be, like, we know that it doesn't always have to be physical. It doesn't always have to be a side by side. It doesn't always have to be like that kind of a thing. But like, does that help at all? Just to be like, I have something literally, like I can go and I can pull like a bullet and I can be like, you know what? I feel like I was really bad at this, but this is how I'm improving on this. And this is why I'm doing it. And this is how I'm getting better at it. Right. Boom, boom, post like 3 sentences and a picture and you're done. So I don't know. Was that helpful at all? I don't know. I just thought about that. So I hope it's helpful. And so I hope that like y'all can go back and use these. So but yeah. Any questions, comments, anything? It's going to kick us off here. I'm sad. Anything?
Thanks, Martha. Okay. That was good food for thought.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just want something like that you can actually use, and something like useful and concrete that you can like work on. So anyway, well, y'all have a good night.
You too.
Love y'all. Thanks for being on.
Yo.
Bye.
Bye.